everybody. Welcome to Roll for Opinion. You guys know who we are. We started the video already. This is the second part of our Vagabond review. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, right, Caden?
Yeah, unfortunately.
What happened is that the audio cut out for a lot of it, and we tried dubbing over it. It wasn't the best. It was actually kind of funny to listen to, though. I was cracking up today at work.
I think I repeated a lot of the things I said, but I did not have a clue what my talking points were when I was making them. So
there were times where you were like, no wonder this is so long. We just talk about so many things, and I don't even know or remember what it was.
Yep. I literally said that in the dub.
That was hilarious. We should maybe make that into a short and put it in the YouTube channel.
Bloopers.
But we were okay. So we left off the conversation talking about general gameplay mechanics, and I think it was you who brought it up, the countdown clocks. And I was just explaining it, and I agreed with you. It's not the most useful mechanic. I didn't like it too much. But you were going to say something more specific. I didn't know that you actually had to keep track of the whole game using a combat clock or a time clock.
And I found what I was looking for in the book. It was the progress clocks. So a round is 10 seconds. A minute is 6 rounds. A scene is 10 minutes. An hour is 6 scenes. A shift is 6 hours. And a day is 4 shifts. Now, I believe some things are measured in you take a shift to travel before you need a rest, I think. And okay. 4 shifts to recover from fatigue. A torch lasts 6 scenes, end of research. 10 minutes to search a room. So all these are kind of like integral to the game. So tracking those progress clocks is like essential to it, and
it's necessary.
Yeah.
Well, at least that design.
And I had a hard time wrapping my head around it, or even caring about it, because I don't like track time like that. We kind of like, finagle it. Oh, it feels like you've been here for an hour in other games.
Yeah, that's what I did with the solo RPG. I was like, oh, I with combat again. You mentioned something about the rounds of combat and how long they are. They're not that long. So if you finish a round of combat, you're not going to have ticked 1 bar of the progress clock yet. But then if you do like 3 rounds of combat, maybe then at that point you have. And I just think it's too crunchy, as you say. It's too much. Yeah.
That's like, I think that's part of the OSR thing, because I said something earlier about dungeon turns. I know BX, if anybody knows what that is, it's basic and expert. Moldve, I think his version was the basic, and that's what a lot of these things refer back to. And in that, they had a dungeon turn where after so much time you roll for random encounters and roving monsters, and whenever you're in the dungeon. And so you had to keep track of the time passage in that as well.
That's cool, but I feel like you could just do that with every time you go into a new room, or every time you backtrack into a room, you just have an encounter or roll a chance for it.
Yeah, or even better, every time your players relax. That's it. When it seems like they got their guard down and they're like, nothing's gonna happen, and you're like, let's roll on the low real quick.
Yeah. That's a thing I've incorporated into one of my games. I don't think it's an original idea, but I did homebrew it into D&D, where players have to take shifts if they want to do a rest at a dangerous place. And if you're taking a shift, that means you don't get the benefits of a rest. And if you don't do the shift and nobody does it, you might get surprised by something. I think that adds a little bit to the horror survival of it. Yeah. But maybe they could do that, something like that, Okay. We were talking about general gameplay mechanics. That's one of those things I did. I think the original question I posed to you is, how well do you think that all these mechanics come together, aside from the combat stuff, to enable players to role play and explore the world around them?
Yeah, I don't think it was built for that. And I think I said that in, the original where we cut out, but I had this long thing about I hear people say that you don't need a system to support role play, but people are going to flock to the mechanics that support what they like, right? So if a game boasts old school style mechanics with no save or die mechanics and 6 hit points per character, and people are not gonna, the people that are attracted to that are not gonna be the people that are like, well, I've created this 6 page in-depth character backstory and I have some ideas for my personal arc in this campaign. You're not gonna get those when you don't create for it. So
Yeah.
you can, but it's, you're not going to find the crowd for it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree entirely. Like, for example, in our Vagabond one shot, I added a lot of flavor and role play to my character because that's what the game is, right? It's an RPG at the end of the day. Um, but it's not an epic. It's not giving you tools to build a massive, long, epic story like 5e or Daggerheart would do. Even in Daggerheart, like there's so much. The hope and fear mechanic itself opens itself to the DM being able to rope in something negative or something positive that then players can roleplay off of and interact with their environment with. Vagabond, like you said, very clearly states in its book that it is meant to be a combat heavy dungeon crawling adventure like book. And so it gives players the tools to do that. You can build a really strong, awesome character to go straight into a dungeon, and you can knock a couple sessions out playing in that. And I think that's where the core of the game lies. I will say though, I do like when it comes to the stats, I like the luck stat. I think more games need to incorporate a luck stat. It opens the possibilities to so many things. What do you think?
Yes. Like I said before, I love luck. I love advantage, disadvantage, and I love mana. Those are like 3 things that I would take into whatever RPG I build if I were to build an RPG.
I don't know about mana. See, I'm conflicted. I I like it and I like it more than spell slots. That's for sure. I just feel like you can get lost in the weeds as a player if you start trying to keep track of all your mana and how you use it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very attracted to like strange magic systems too. Like powered by the apocalypse, where it's like you just describe what you want to do and you could do it, and it gets harder to do the more complicated you make it, or the more powerful you make it sound. You kind of just vibe
Yeah.
off it, and
Okay.
I mean I think that's pretty cool. But it depends on who you're playing with. What mechanics I would use.
I think I like something more like what you just said, where it's you go a little bit off of vibes. It's just the whole resource thing can get very messy as for a player, especially if your attention is not fully there. Like that happens to everybody. Now I got to keep track of HP, armor, mana. Maybe I'm keeping track of somebody else's HP. I don't know. If you have a magic system where you can just vibe and do whatever you want and still have some sort of like limitation or repercussion to it, that'd be perfect.
I think I think it would just go off of you'd get fatigue for the way I would do it. You'd get fatigue rather than using mana points. You just do the spell you want to do, and it would cost you a certain amount of energy. And when you run so high on your fatigue, then it starts costing you HP, and you can keep going until you die.
I
Kind
kind
of.
of like that. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And you can use just to not like overload players. Now this became TTRPG
I
design.
know we gotta save that for another one. But see, that's where the real juicy stuff is.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that at some other point.
But hold on, back to
I'm
Vagabond, because I did find something when we were talking about what this is made for, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I was looking for this before, and it says action first, cinema second. This is straight from the book. I mean, that's the title of one of the things in the intro. Uh, Basically, it's telling you focus on the combat and the action and the the crunch first, and then all that narrative stuff comes after. and that's the vibe he was going for,
Yeah.
which accomplished. He did exactly what he set out to do.
I agree. Yeah, it did exactly that. I personally, for me, I'm not super interested in that, other than occasionally wanting to have some silly fun with friends, which is it's all well and said. But again, I think you and I are both more like we want more
Yeah.
narrative storytelling capabilities, something that we can elongate as much as possible.
Even in my silly games, I want character
Yeah.
growth. I want a character that will survive or options to survive. I want him, I love the Daggerheart death system because it gives you like the three choices. There's still a consequence to everything, no matter what, and it builds up as you go. But at the end of the day, you can choose a narrative moment for your outro if you so choose. And I remember campaigns where I would have, like, if my character died at the point, I'd be like, thank God I was getting tired of this character anyways, and I got another cooler idea I'd like to use as a great moment to go out.
Yeah, that's happened to me too. You choose the way you go out. It's fantasy, right? You should be able to do that. I will say too, maybe there's somebody there in the audience saying, well, guys, that's just OSR stuff, right? Like your characters are not likely going to last that long. So you shouldn't spend all that time crafting a backstory on them, or you, the DM, shouldn't spend that much time crafting lore for the whole thing. I disagree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah.
I think you can make an OSR and still be it compelling in a narrative way.
Yes. And in fact, I won't play it unless it is. That's like my, I have to have a story. I'm playing this to not even completely, not wholly, because sometimes I'm a really what do they call it? Instigative character. Sometimes I just make things happen because I'm like, I just want to hurry up and do something, even if it all goes wrong. So it doesn't have to be
chaotic.
I'm very chaotic as a player, but I want there to be a story that I'm immersed in as I do this.
Oh. Yeah, no, I agree entirely. I think the story is the big draw for this. Sometimes the combat mechanics and the gameplay mechanics take a backseat. Right? I'm sure there's people out there who prioritize having really nice combat mechanics. I love combat mechanics, but it's not going to be the main selling point for a game.
No, and in fact, the crunchier it gets, the less likely I am to play it. So simple systems, so that I can spend time. I know it sounds so cheesy because everybody's saying now, so I can spend more time in the story, but that's really what I want to do. I want to spend more time playing with
simple systems. Simple systems run quick too. Like you're not overloading your players with so many decisions and what to do. And there's this game, Mythic Bastion Land, where it kind of accomplishes a lot of that stuff. But we can leave that game for another time. I really want to try it. But it's the mechanics, the combat mechanics side of it is very light, yet it still manages to make it dynamic enough that so many stuff can happen and the strategy that goes into it. Okay, but going back to Vagabond, right? This is not to say we hate Vagabond. We liked it. We enjoyed it. It's just so people know what they're going into. And again, if you're really, really committed to the game, you can definitely figure out ways to turn this into a narrative heavy game. Think of the Vagabond as kind of like the motor of a car, or like the internal parts of a car, where that's the way it runs, and you can give it whatever coat of paint you want to go with the world that you have envisioned.
In fact, I think me and you, we'd be just fine. I'd run a pretty long adventure on this. I would drop the whole progress clocks. I would drop the random encounters. I'd write out a story arc like I usually do with other games. I'd do a little math on the encounter building, so I get a general idea of what's going to kill you and what's not. And then I would make it play just the way I play with every other system, and it'd be fine for that.
Well, you're thinking of running another. You mentioned it in the first recording. It's like an old school, type campaign adapted. I forgot the name for it.
I gotta shout this out too. It's Ghost Crest Peak. All right, it's White Plume Mountain. If anybody's ever heard of that, it's another old school classic. It's basically that remade for Vagabond.
There we go. and you're gonna run it, and maybe then we'll be like, oh wow, we've changed our opinions on it or not.
Yes, with an in-depth dungeon crawl written the way it was intended to be played without, me, because I was kind of just freestyling on that. I got a handful of rules that I thought I had down and then just did what I thought this would how it would work. But now I've got, I'm just gonna run it the way somebody else intended it to work and see if I like it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a beauty of this hobby and these games, right? It's like you can run it however you want. You can play with it however you want. Doesn't have to be straight to the rules. We kind of dipped our toes a bit into combat, and we don't have to roll anymore because this was definitely like the last category, which was combat.
Yeah.
What did you think about running as a GM, running combat in Vagabond?
I felt like a fish out of water, but I don't think it had anything to do with the combat system. I think it mainly because I was not confident with the turns, and I don't think anybody else was. Like, I wasn't keeping track of whether that side was finished going. It was my turn. I was like, "You guys done yet?" And everybody's looking around. I don't know if everybody went. Did everybody go?
It was a bit awkward. I mean, it was 5 people. Nobody knows each other. And I think 2 or 3 of those individuals, one who was myself, had never played the game before. So while I was scrambling to looking through this character sheet and this PDF to figure out what can I do and how can I play, other people might have been like, well, I'm going to wait until this person goes, or I'm going to go first and you guys figure things out.
I can see that after a couple sessions, it probably would have been way smoother. After a couple sessions, I could see it going easy because I really don't have to do anything. I place the monsters and I tell you what they do, and everybody else rolls. So and there's not a lot of HP to track or different abilities. And there is something I do love about the stat blocks. I was looking at them, and there's like under goblins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right under that stat block, it'll give you 3 different types of goblins after the main stats. So it's like you've got a whole group you could build off of one stat block, and that's a draw for me. For any
That's
system.
a few of them. It's not all of them. Goblins is one. Yeah, it has like warriors, wizards, and something else. But not all the monsters have that like different. I wish more of them did, though. I agree with you. That would be cool.
Yeah, I want groups of monsters, and with main core stats and then different abilities for different types in that group that I could all fit on one index card, and then I could have an encounter like right here. I don't have to look anywhere else, and then just start tracking HP separate, and that's it.
Yeah, it was the goblins themselves. Now that you brought them up, because they're one of the enemies that you can fight in the solo dungeon adventure. And the goblins were my favorite encounter out of all of them. Because of the fact that you could have warriors, wizards, and I think archers or something else. I can't remember anymore. And it felt more dynamic. Some of the other ones, there was one called the Rust Monster, something like that. It's a big arachnid type monster. That wasn't fun to fight. It also made me realize how strong armor can be, because those have like an armor score of 5, which, if the viewers don't know, the way when you do combat in Vagabond is when you roll your damage dice, the monsters have an armor, and you also have armor, but the monsters have armor that will subtract and sponge up that damage from the damage that you rolled. So if you're rolling a 1d6, which most things in this game roll a 1d6 of damage, unless you like decide to use extra resources for it, and this has an armor score of 5, if you're not rolling a 6, you're not going to be doing any damage to it. And even if you rolled a 6, you're going to be doing like 1 damage.
Which also, I think that's just a more fun way to do bags of hit points, right? Because it's literally like the damage mitigation kind of essentially does make like a 6 hit point creature more hit points in the reality of it. It's just because it doesn't get exhausted.
Yeah. So it always has 5 armor, and it can make fights go longer. And it can give your creatures a lot more survivability. But you also have to be very careful as a player. As a player, you have a way to mitigate damage too, which is you roll, like Caden said, the creatures always hit. They're always going to hit you.
If you don't
So
do
you can
anything.
roll, yeah, if you don't do anything, which I forgot that was a possibility when we first ran the one shot. Because you can roll evasion, you can see if you evade or you can see if you block it, and that allows you to drop the highest damage dice of this creature. So if a creature only has one damage die, it's probably not going to do any damage to you. If a creature has like multiple of them, then you at least can reduce some of that.
You know what I would like to see though? In this day of advanced VTTs, like
Hmm.
another system steal this whole magic system and just make it work for the VTT so that you just when you go through character creation, you do all that customizing of your spells and it's already there for you to click as you go and just be described as you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you choose the
just
power, you choose the
automate it
flavor
and
and
everything.
automate it, and then that would just give you such an array of options without having to think about it too. I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, let's not call it steal though. Let's just say inspired by, right? Because
Yeah, inspired
then
by.
inspired by. Because, but yeah, I think somebody should make. I mean, easier said than done, right? Or we can. It's easy for us to sit on our chairs and say, like, did somebody do this? But yeah, it
Yeah.
would be nice if you could, without having to do all the math and pen and paper of to like, well, how many mana points am I gonna use to cast a spell this exact way? Somebody just does it. Like a computer just does it for you.
But I think I contradict myself all the time in my head too because I think that's a good idea, but I'm also realizing that a lot of this digital tools we've got going makes it so that I've seen players don't even learn half of the rules or what their
It's
character
true.
does.
And I've thought about that when we're trying out a lot of our different systems. I get scared because I'm like, I start thinking, am I actually playing the game, or is the game being played for me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's another reason why I'm attracted to simpler systems. I think like Vagabond is simple, right? It's gonna be foreign to you if you're new to this type of game. So
Hmm.
but it is essentially a simple system. It's really rules light. Most of what you need to know is on a handful of pages. So it
Yeah.
needs to be like that so that it'll attract anybody. A lot of people before this digital thing did not took a look at 3 books and were like, Dungeons and Dragons, no way, dude. I have to read that. I gotta read those books to be able to do this. Like you telling me I have to study? And
Yeah.
it was a real turnoff for a lot of people. But you get something small like this and explain that you only need like 5 pages worth of rules. And then don't let it don't give them any crutches to learn the system. Just have them write down what they got to do and what their character does, and fill out your character sheet with pencil. I think.
That really helps. Fill it out with pencil, not a PDF or digital. I mean, you do what you want, but it does help to you familiarize yourself with your character and everything you can do with it. I will also say, I do regret. Not. I'm just noticing there's a bit of background on your end, Caden. There's like an echo.
Oh no, I turned the noise off. Is it reverb?
Let's see.
Yeah, it's probably the echo from the room, right?
No, it's when I talk. So it's like if your headphones aren't plugged in.
Oh,
It
no
work?
worries. No worries. Worst comes to worst, I'm going to raise the I turned all noise cancellation off on Discord because I thought that might be a problem.
Oh, I see. That's fine.
But don't worry, I can fix it during the editing process.
The editing. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, we don't have to cut this out. This is fine. Um, okay, so I was gonna say I do regret not having done the solo RPG portion of this game before running our one shot. I did a few rounds of that, and I really learned the rules pretty quickly after like my third run as to how to do combats, how to explore, just how to use my spells or my abilities. I also played an alchemist. That was really fun. Where instead of using spells, you just throw around. You craft potions and you throw them, and that was really wacky. Not the best for a solo RPG. It's more of a utility character, but that was still fun. I also played the barbarian, or like the the warrior version of whatever is in this book. All of it was really fun. And again, I was just really like disappointed in myself for not having played that before going into your one shot, because it would have made the one shot experience way better.
Same, same. Honestly, same. Because I also, it also, this book also made me realize that maybe that should be the norm. Because I used to think like solo RPGs not for me. It's not. But whether that's something you want to do in your free time is irrelevant when it's such a great tool to learn the system. I'm thinking maybe everybody should consider that being like part of the norm to include a small solo RPG adventure in your core to teach the
Yeah,
rules.
I agree entirely. I think it would be nice if I think it would be nice if every game could do that. I do understand that maybe from a design point of view, it can be difficult to achieve. Even Vagabond does have to like stretch out a few rules for it to fit the solo RPG vibe a bit, because you're not playing with other players. So now it's much more like the creatures are going to attack you. You're going to have to bear the brunt of it. And even in Vagabond, I'll be honest, not all of these classes are good for a solo RPG adventure.
No.
The druid was definitely not the best unless you just turn it into a creature. And that's not fun because then I'm just playing a creature. I'm not playing a druid. So other classes are more well rounded to tank and deal out damage. Those are better equipped for a solo adventure. And I guess it's good for you to learn the rules that way. But if a game has to then take into account how am I going to design a game that's meant for multiple people, but then meant for one person at the same time, that can get really tricky.
Yeah, it is, but it's helpful. I think creating a TTRPG, it should be considered if whether or not it's going to be beneficial to do that, because there are benefits to it, and
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
grown in popularity for a reason. So
Yeah, the vibe, the aesthetic, the whole combat, the spell system in general. I think that's what I hear most people talking about is the spell system, the spell casting system. And like I said in the beginning, it can be a lot to wrap your head around as a new player or as somebody who's never like seen a spell system like that. So maybe having a solo RPG session, one or two solo RPG sessions with a wizard or some sort of caster beforehand will help you familiarize yourself with the rules and then enjoy your experience a lot more. So I do recommend for everybody who plays or designs games to kind of keep that in mind.
absolutely, absolutely, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about regarding combat mechanics?
No, Vagabond has already inspired a lot of conversation. If it has at least done that for us, no matter what. It has inspired a lot of thought. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah. No.
every little bit of this game has made us think.
It's very unique in a lot of different ways, and that is a hard thing to achieve in a time where there's so many TTRPGs coming out. It's like a gold rush right now of games. And
Yes.
Vagabond has stood out,
It's original.
which is yeah, it's a great achievement. I think
It
that's
is.
cool to do. But I wish I could make a game like that. Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the next iteration he's working on. Honestly, because I love the
Same.
whole vibe and aesthetic of this, and even if I'm not comfortable with it yet, I am not set on my opinion yet. Right now, it's not for me, but I'm not putting it down and walking away.
Mhm.
I'm not set on my
Yeah,
opinion yet.
But they're gonna run from that White Plume Mountain thing, so we'll see how that goes as well. So I guess we can transition now into final thoughts. You said you are not gonna put it down yet. You're still gonna play a little bit more on it, but so far, what would be your final thoughts on this game? If you had to rate it from 1 to 10, what would you give it as a rating?
It
Or
would
1 to 20. Let's do
1 to 20. Oh, okay, that
Yeah,
works. That works.
'cause
I mean,
D20.
I would say maybe a 14 on the D20, because there are some things that are big drawback for me, like they make me step away from it. But there's also a lot there to make me give it another chance. Like the customization of the characters, the magic system, even just the layout and the artwork of the book is awesome. The small monster stat blocks, the slim rules, you know, all of that is a draw. But there's just, I just want a little more meat on encounter building and a little more guidance on how to run an adventure. Even if you got to
Yeah,
put it in a separate book, I'll buy it.
I agree. I would give it a 16 on my end. I would echo everything that you just said. I like that it's a slim, thin book. I wish I had the physical book like you have it right now, so I could more easily flip through the pages and run stuff. Um, there is mechanics that I feel like are unnecessary, and that's the reason why it doesn't reach a nat 20. It gets only to 16 because there's mechanics like we said, like the time watch, keeping track of the time. I don't like that. I don't like. We didn't mention these two things, but I didn't like adversary positioning. Like it's back line, it's front line, it's midline. I don't need that. And then there was something else as well. Oh, morale, where enemies can sometimes lose morale mid fight, and that'll cause them to try and run away or surrender. I think that's okay. I feel like that's something that as a GM you can just figure out on your own, and you don't need a written set mechanic for it as much.
Because I think maybe you do it the way I do it. It's off the story. Like if the story calls for them to the character to
Yeah.
be, I'll back out if this happens because he's not that invested in this goal. But I don't do
Yeah,
those randomly.
like if you're a final boss fight and you kill the boss immediately, the minions are gonna scatter.
Yes. I'm not rolling for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to roll for that. We're also not going to waste everybody's time on this table to just fight off minions when you've beaten the big bad.
Yeah.
Or if there's like it happened, I think it happened to us in the one shot where there is like one guy that survived the onslaught of the players. There was one enemy, and we all kept trying to hit it and missed. And so it just kept going round and round of people trying to hit it and missing. It's like at that point, maybe we can just say he ran away.
And it wasn't the big bad.
And it wasn't the big bad. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot the big bad actually got killed off pretty quickly.
Fast.
It was like 2 rounds.
It was hilarious the way it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely better guidance towards building encounters. I think that's a thing that all the books should consider having, is how to help people run an encounter. It's good for new GMs. It's good for experienced GMs. It's good for anybody who wants to try out your system. Just add that in and think about it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So those were the final thoughts. Yeah, and this is like I think the end of the podcast. For the next podcast, hopefully, we will be talking about Nimble, which is another TTRPG game that has been making waves as well in the community. Everybody has been talking about this the system because, as the name implies, combat is supposed to run much quicker compared to D&D 5e. So Caden will be running a one shot, and I'll be playing in it as it's usually the case. And then we will review it and give you our thoughts on the next podcast or the next episode of Roll for Opinion.
I got butterflies just thinking about it. I'm ready. All right, guys. See you next time.
See you later.